Hey friends, what is up and welcome back to my channel. As you can tell from the title of today's video, I wanted to sit down and give you my top 10 favorite tropes. Now, some of these I've gotten from television shows, some of these I've gotten from books. I'm going to try to give examples of all of them, and I am going to try to stick to it being book related, like seeing these tropes in books that I've read. Some of these are recent discoveries that I realized I actually really enjoy, and it is because I have been reading such a wide variety of genres over the last couple of months. I hope you guys are excited for this video. If you are, please give it a thumbs up and think about subscribing, but I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Now, the first one I'm gonna talk about, I think a lot of people, like a lot of people really like this one, and it is enemies to lovers. There is something about this trope that I just genuinely really enjoy, and my first foray into it, but maybe not, I would say like the best example of it would be Rowan and Celaena from Throne of Glass. Now, obviously they start out completely hating each other, but they do form a really great bond and they do eventually fall in love. I really genuinely enjoy this trope because it shows so much of character growth, which I feel like is another thing that I really like in a lot of the books that I'm reading. I love seeing characters start out hating each other and then they start working together and then they start kind of developing feelings, maybe starting a friendship. I also like the enemies to friendship trope as well, but I wanted to kind of keep it all under an umbrella trope. I really like this, and I'm not going to stay here for too long because I feel like of the tropes that I see around, this is probably the most popular. Now the next one, I think I could have probably saved this for the last because I think it is my absolute favorite, and it is the older mentor. Recently I read Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and you can also use this for like Harry Potter with Dumbledore and Harry, but I do like the idea of a older, more wiser mentor sort of helping a younger person, like our younger, preferably main character. I really like this when it is the older mentor is like a side character and then the younger mentor or the younger person who's being mentored is the main character. I really like that because you get to see kind of this progression for our main character and learning from the older mentor. But what tends to happen is the older mentor does have a lot of information that maybe the younger person doesn't have access to, like our main character doesn't have access to. And I feel like this opens us up to a lot of plot twists. And I feel like when I see plot twists done in this way from an older mentor's perspective, I genuinely, oh my god, I love it so much because what it tends to be is like forbidden information or like something the character didn't know about when it comes to like the world building or just like I said, a plot twist in general, and I love this trope. I'd have to say this is my absolute favorite. Now, one that I realized I like a lot recently is fake dating or like fake married or fake friendships. I read this in Red, White, and Royal Blue. Obviously, the boys were supposed to be faking a friendship to kind of keep the crown and the presidency happy. I also really liked this in The Unhoneymooners, which I did also read recently. I feel like what it does is when you read books about developing characters, like when they are developing friendships or developing relationships, for me, I feel like that can be really hit or miss for a lot of authors, so it sort of takes the pressure off an already established relationship. Also, it's really fun to see how secondary characters react to the fake relationship. It's a lot of fun to read about them being like, oh, you're a super cute couple, or you guys have such a great friendship, when behind the scenes they're like, I don't even really like you. Like in The Unhoneymooners, that's really what it was. The main characters absolutely hated each other, and then they go away to Hawaii for a fake, what is it called? Honeymoon, obviously, on honeymooners, for a fake honeymoon, and they don't like each other throughout most of the book. So I really enjoy this. I feel like it adds a level of, I want to say like conflict to the story. It sets you up for a lot of people finding out that they're fake dating and the repercussions of that. And I actually really like when that happens in stories. I feel like it's a fun conflict to kind of read about. So this is one of my more recent discoveries and one that I truly enjoy. Now the next one I want to talk about is the one that I think makes me cry the most in books, and it would be Here Comes the Cavalry. Now the best example that I have for this would have to be Kings of the Wild. This book, there's so many times when I'm reading a book and it's like, it's down to the wire and they feel like all hope is lost and nothing can get done and they're all gonna die and the worst is happening, and then here comes the fucking cavalry to save everybody. I love this trope. I think that it is one of the more heart-wrenching ones, and especially when I was reading Kings of the Wild, because they're much older characters, they're much older gentlemen, and for me it just really, for some reason, like even in television shows or in movies, that is my favorite part of them. And I think Kings of the Wild did it really well, when you really feel like everything is lost and nothing is going to be accomplished, and the thing that you set out to accomplish you're failing at, and then just to have the cavalry show up and take care of everything. I love this trope. I think that it's a really underrated one as well. Now, the next one that I like is more, I wonder if this is more a theme than a trope, but it's morally gray characters. I love morally gray characters. I recently actually unhauled, I'll list my unhaul up above for you guys, but I recently unhauled Vicious, but I think Vicious is a great example of morally gray characters. I would also include a couple of other like superheroes in this as well. Like, I think most of the X-Men, like Logan from the X-Men, I feel like he's also a morally gray character, at least in the beginning. But it is those characters that you can kind of empathize with their villainy. Like, you can kind of see why they became who they are. And the reason why I like this is I'm a really character-driven person, and it opens up a lot of backstory and depth to a character. Like, there has to be some explanation as to why they are how they are. And there tends to be a lot of internal struggle within the character as well on, is this something that I really want to do? Like, what's really crossing the line between morally gray and a straight villainy? And I love that. I think that it provides a lot of depth to characters. My other favorite example of this is the Darkling. Now, this is also if you read like side books that Lee's done, or just any kind of backstory that you get on the Darkling in the Grisha trilogy. I think that a lot of people call him a villain, but I think at the beginning, like the first book, I would consider the character that he's kind of portrayed as a morally gray character, and then later on he does really cross that line, and you can see when it happens. So like I said, I really like morally gray characters because I feel like it adds a lot of depth to a story. So the next example I have is probably one of my other favorites, and it is bad girl or boy that really ends up caring. Now, the best example I have for this is actually Orna from A Big Ship at the Edge of the Universe. And my version of a bad girl or boy that ends up caring is not necessarily in a romantic way. Now, the reason why I use Orna for this is when you first meet Orna in the book, she is really just a bitch. Like, she is really violent, she's really angry, she really just like hates everybody, talks shit about everybody, she's really hard to work with. And later on in the story, she does become a little bit softer in a way, but she maintains her badass, but she really cares about the people that she's surrounded by. And that is one of my favorites because once again, it does open up a lot of character growth. Not so much backstory, but actual character growth. You get to read and learn and see how they kind of broke down their walls and rebuilt new ones and letting people in, and then they become like the big protector of the group. I absolutely love this trope, and I think that Orna is a great example for it. One of my other most favorite ones is actually girl gangs. So I really, or even boy gangs really, I really enjoy same-sex groups who just love each other and support each other and build each other up. The best example I have for this would actually have to be Sockhill Girls. I feel like the girls in Sockhill Girls are just real in a way. Like, there's a lot of them working together, there's a lot of them putting aside their differences, there's a lot of wounding that some characters do to other characters, and they have to learn how to grow and forgive and build new relationships while also maintaining boundaries like, hey, you hurt me and I need to keep this boundary here, but I'm willing to let you try. And it's so pleasant to read this because I feel like, especially when it comes to like girl gangs in particular, there is a lot of girl hate in literature. So when I read about a strong girl gang that really truly loves and supports each other, it just hits so close to home because all my friends, like most of my really, really close friends, have always been guys. Like, for forever, they've always been guys. And more so recently, a lot of my friends are girls, and it feels really good to have women in my life that build me up and support me, and, you know, vice versa. So it's really nice to actually read about that in books because I feel like it's really important to have that example for the younger generation. I feel like it really sets a good example of how you want to be as a woman. You want to support each other, you want to love each other, you want to have those friends. And it's very different when you're a woman or identify as a woman and like the things that we go through than it would be like if you're a man. And so it's nice to have girls in your life or women in your life that you can talk to and, I don't know, just like be able to really voice your experience with them. And I think that's why I like girl gangs so much. The next one is controversial, and I feel like a lot of people won't like this, but I actually really like this, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I really like the protector trope. So a male or female who is in love with someone, and they're in love, whatever. There might be a romance, it might just be a friendship, but they are the protector. And once again, the best example I have of this is Rowan. And I know it's controversial, I don't care. I really like that series and I really love Rowan. And he is one of those characters that if something happens to somebody that he loves, he will fight and protect them. I like the really strong, I don't know, like, I just really like them. I think they're super sexy. That is one of my favorite tropes of all time, is just the protector trope. And honestly, I wonder if it's because I didn't really have that growing up in a way. So if I see something like that, it really appeals to me. I feel like a lot of the tropes that I'm really drawn to are things that were lacking in my experience growing up. And obviously I'm a bit older now, but still reading that kind of book or reading those kinds of characters really brings me a sense of like peace and excitement. And I really like just like the character who's like, I'm going to protect you at all costs. I'm actually watching Outlander right now. One of the main characters in that series is very much so like, as long as I am here, I will protect you. And I'm just like ugly crying in bed at like 7 o'clock in the morning, like, oh my God. That's when I realized, I was like, oh shit, this is like my favorite trope ever. So I really like it in shows, I really like it in movies, and I also really like it in books. So another trope that I like, which could also be a theme, it could also just be a character theme, is sentient or not so sentient computers. I really like computers or machines in books that add some sort of level of character development, but in a different way. So you have like your humanoid characters or even your alien characters, but they're more humanoid, you know what I mean? But I really like the like AI. So for example, one of my very favorite ones is actually the computer from Skyward once again. And it is a sentient computer, but it does have its limitations, but you can kind of tell like throughout the book that it's like trying to learn and trying to not develop human emotions, but sort of try to program them so they can better communicate with the person that they are working with. And I realized how much I really like this. So there are a ton of computers in other books that I've genuinely enjoyed. A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet has one in it as well. There is one in A Big Ship at the Edge of the Universe. But my favorite part of these characters existing is when they are there for like comedic relief. So the best example that I have here is the ship in Skyward is really there for comedic relief. Like that is what he is there for. And I think that it, for me, is just like the funniest thing to read. And because it's not a human character or a humanoid character, I feel like the lines are a little bit different, like how they act and how they respond and what they're able to do and not do, and you know, what they're able to get away with. And I really like that. I think that it's a lot of fun to read about that, and not just like a humanoid character, but just a robotic or artificial intelligence character. Now, I would say the last one I want to talk about is more of a theme that I like, but also a trope that I enjoy. And it is the character that when you first start reading the book, they feel like, I'll be happy when I have this. Like whether it be a boy or money or a job or a girlfriend or like going to college or the art degree that they want, whatever it may be. But they realize later that happiness is really found in them. And I think the reason why I like this trope so much is this is something that I've realized more so recently. So sitting down and really thinking about my life and like what makes me happy and what, you know, always trying to attain more and more and more and just being happy with what I have, but doing it in a way that like I make me happy, and that is all that matters. And I really like reading about that in books because I feel like it is once again a really important lesson or trope to see. The character who really struggles to get the thing, whatever it may be, that they want, and then they realize that they're really happy with what they have, and they're really happy in a relationship way just with themselves. And I feel like this is another thing that I really like seeing because I feel like it adds a lot of representation for Ace as well. I think that it is important to not always have the happy ending be that somebody finds the partner or, you know, finds the love of their life, because some people don't want that. And I think that it's really important to have, because it really makes me feel like, I don't know, that everybody is being represented, but it is so true to real life. You don't need to be happy finding a partner. You don't need to be happy with that brand new job you really want, or you don't need to be happy winning $1 million. Like, you can be happy now, and choosing to be happy, I feel like that's a really good lesson to learn. I feel like it's a lesson that I think a lot of people could benefit from seeing. So it's really nice for me to read that, especially in YA, because I feel like it's teaching like the younger generation that may be reading it or moving into reading YA. I feel like it's teaching them at a young age that it is okay to be, whether it be Ace or whether it just be okay with yourself and not want to be with anybody or not really need to get more and more and more to be happy. And I really like that trope. It's probably one of my favorites, actually. All right, so that is all of the tropes that I want to talk about today. Let me know down below your favorite trope. I actually had a really hard time. I've been planning this video for a while and just kind of keeping an eye out or an ear out when I'm reading and writing down the tropes that I've noticed that I've really enjoyed, once again, whether it be in television shows or movies or whatever. But it's really hard to figure out for me the tropes that I really love. It's much easier to do the tropes that I don't like. But let me know down below your favorite, especially if there are any of these and why you really enjoyed them. But I love you so much. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!